Good man you have right here.
We think so. We think so.
We really enjoy working with you.
Thank you.
It wasn't almost easy.
Oh, come on. Not yet.
Yeah, you actually.
He's doing the job.
For 22 years. I've been married
She
for
goes,
it's
yeah.
not always easy. It's not
About
always.
all of his designs. Spins it on.
22 years.
What do you find too hot?
I hope you're handing me an award tonight, basically.
See, 1 year complaints, 22 years.
Well, that's pretty good.
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Great book here.
Yeah.
Good book. Looks nice.
Good job. Yeah, well, I didn't do anything.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, 30 days worth of work.
That one's very, very important. So that gas thing,
Turned out.
the gas thing, I just gotta do it, right?
Well, I'm going to call the gas company and talk to them tomorrow and see. But yeah, we're just got to do it, you know. So it's going to be what it's going to be. But
Yeah, exactly.
we got to get it done. So
After talking to the engineer, there's no magical solution.
right, yeah.
You can do a bypass, but then
Right.
the gas company may say, oh, where's the bypass here?
Right. So I'll call them and talk to them. But meanwhile, we're just full steam ahead, you know.
Yeah, almost done. Almost done.
Almost.
Nobody used to work in the
Yeah.
office.
Oh, okay.
You can't,
A lot of that.
I know, you can't not do apartment.
Yeah.
Anybody you talk to these days, they do apartments because
Yeah. There's so much of it. Right.
it's like 80% of the market.
Yeah.
Apartments everywhere. It's crazy.
Well, that's good. So it's you and Miguel and a couple other guys? Yeah.
They do other stuff to Miguel and Jeff. They also do interiors and
Oh, okay.
TI.
Yeah.
That's Jeff. Technical phone. do some things together, some things we do separately.
Yeah. That's cool.
Kind of collaborate. Like if I have a bigger job, I have people that I collaborate with. I bring them in, we do like a soft merger.
Just on consultant.
or even different levels. Depends.
Oh, okay.
Like even could be other architects.
Yeah.
So instead of going and hiring people, we just collaborate.
I think that's the new way to do things, right?
So if you have one project right now, it's
Keep your core small, profitable, and expand and contract as you need.
We have one project, it's about $2 million, right? It's a commercial project on Sunset Boulevard, West Hollywood, high profile. I'm doing this with a friend of mine, two architects, kind of 50-50, we share the work and the money. We Kingsley, which is
component has always been because I can look at stuff like I know why putting detail that way. But when it comes to drywall and things, leads on what type of stuff, that stuff.
Assemblies, right? You like the assembly.
Yeah, I like the stuff, and I can understand.
Always exciting. Always problems to solve.
They change it all the time. I go to the office in the morning thinking that I'm gonna take somebody out for lunch, whatever that is. No, before you go to school, and I have to have lunch myself.
Everybody's good. Well, let's see. Matt's got a daughter and about to have a son. Allie has two kids, all married.
Sure.
Thank you. Hello. Great. Yeah. Staying out of trouble. Somebody's got it.
cards, and you know, the different unions, non-union affiliations, and they have non-union counterparts that do the same type of work as a union.
Hey, so excited to be here.
Yeah, quite a interesting conversation to have with her.
Hi there, how's it going? Thanks for being here. It's great to be here to have a ribbon cutting for a facility to measure eye facility.
I would agree with, from what I heard from her, I would agree with that.
Put it this way. Ken told me that he was on. I know he was somewhere else prior to that. For Jim? Yeah, I've known Jim for about maybe 6, 7, 8 years. In the commercial, all this stuff. to go far either. Doesn't have to go far, right?
Yeah, I don't know what I would do if I was
twice so far. I remember the first experience when I got on the first time.
I gotta go to this.
We drove to, I think, hole number 8 or 9, whatever hole number was. And we were 4 of us. I looked at the other 3, all 3 were excellent. So what are we doing now?
We don't.
Top of the mountain. Yes, that's what I do. I have the ball from here to there. ready? You're a tough. I know I will not fight. What? I can't unless someone picks something up.
I gave that a
All right, let's all go. Well, I'm going to thank you with my boss. I'm ready. Kids, today. Talking to you guys.
Who should be in charge of that?
Auto be prepared.
I'm not sure the Boy Scouts are prepared. Jeremy's taking the training to be a scout. Yeah. He intends to get it.
No, I was like, oh, I can't tell you how to
In order to is on his way to My dad would be very happy. My dad would be very happy because he was a scout.
Good afternoon, everyone. If you could please grab a seat. We have plenty of shaded seats up front. While you're doing that, I know some of you are asking yourselves, what's going on, David? I thought we were done with groundbreaking ceremonies, not another project, another set of fences, jackhammering. Nope, I just pulled this out of storage, and it even has our old logo that Dr. Sean worked on. You know it's been a while. He's traveled around the world since then. But I've been waiting for 10 years to retire this hard hat. So this is quite a ceremony, and I am so glad that all of you are here to join in this celebration today. As we begin our program, I want to let you know that our program is streaming live on Facebook. And we also have it on our displays inside the lobby and one of the conference rooms right next door. So if you're feeling hot and you want to join us but you don't want to miss out on anything, please join us inside. At this time, I will ask our Arcadia Unified Schools Board President, Kuhn Nguyen, to lead us through the presentation of the colors and some welcoming comments.
Thank you, David. It's an honor to be here today to celebrate this monumental occasion. It's an honor to have so many distinguished guests with us this afternoon. Among our distinguished guests, Boy Scout Troop 104, who's here to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and post a color. Please rise as they post the colors and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Place right hand over your heart. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing as our high school band plays the Star Spangled Banner. Thank you. Please be seated. On behalf of the Arcadia Unified School District Board of Education, I want to welcome everyone here today. We are celebrating the culmination of Measure I, the Arcadia Neighborhood School Health, Safety, and Repair Measure, a 10-year, $218 million bond that upgraded and improved every single classroom and school campus throughout the entire school district. When this journey began well over a decade ago, we never thought it would end here at our facilities, maintenance, operations, and transportation headquarters. Actually, this project was not part of the original plans, but thanks to the efforts of an exceptional project delivery team who completed every project on time and under budget, we're sitting here next to this brand new state-of-the-art facility that is truly the heartbeat and backbone of our school district. As the board president, I'm extremely proud of this accomplishment and everything Measure I has done for our schools and our community. Of course, this work was not done alone. I'd also like to thank my current colleagues who serve with me on the Board of Education and introduce them so we can all give them a much well-deserved round of applause. Our Vice President, Lori Filippi. Lori has served on the board with me since 2007. Kay Kinsler, our clerk. Clay has been on the board since 2011. Fenton Ng, Fenton's been on the board since 2013. And last, but most importantly, our newest board member, Lee Chavez, who was elected last year to be on our board. I also like to take a brief moment to recognize our former board members who served during the Measure I year. Thank you for your leadership and instrumentation in getting the Measure I campaign going. As I call your names, please rise if you're here today. Janet Chu. Joanne Steinmeier. Marianne Gibson. Annie Yuen. John McLean. Jim Romo. Right on cue, Jim. Let's give them all another round of applause. Together, these 6 dedicated community leaders have served the combined total of 82 years for our Board of Education. The most important debt of gratitude and appreciation, however, goes out to all of you, the Arcadia community. It was the community that voted overwhelmingly yes on Measure I, and voted yes to better the lives of everyone in our community and helping dreams become reality through education. Thank you to our community for allowing us to imagine, inquire, and inspire so that we could live out our purpose as a district, which is to challenge and inspire students to make a positive and profound impact on the world. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you, President Nguyen. I want to add to some of the extraordinary facts and figures that President Nguyen mentioned by reminding people that just over a year ago, we were able to refinance the bond loans for a total savings of $80 million to the taxpayers of Arcadia. This was a direct result of Arcadia Unified's conservative management of funds and responsible financial practices, along with the district's strong financial condition and high reserve levels. After the school board made the courageous decision to go for Measure I, it took an army of volunteers to pass the bond as well as implementing the strategic plan over a 10-year period. I would like to attempt to recognize some people and groups for their vital role in this achievement. Now, this is normally a formality in meetings. This is all the introductions before you get to the program. I want to be clear for this celebration today, recognizing the many people that is sitting in the audience that have been a part of this. This is the program for today, and we can't say thank you enough. I'm pleased to have two of our retired superintendents with us today. The first one was at the helm when this decision was made and the bond measure passed, Dr. Mimi Hennessy. Dr. Hennessy was here earlier, but she had to run. And the second one at the helm for the majority of the work, Dr. Joel Shawn. I was disappointed to hear that Christina Aragon, our CBO and Assistant Superintendent of Business during most of this project, could not make it. She's traveling with her role as president of CASBO in California this year, but she sends her regards, and I just want to say a special thank you. Her conservative budgeting ensured that, as you heard, we were on schedule and under budget throughout the entire project, which meant that the last project got as much attention as the first project. And that's very unique. So if you'll help me thank Christina Aragon. Also from that past group, someone all the way from Truckee, Tahoe, Dr. Rob Leary, that couldn't be with us, but Rob Leary was deputy superintendent for most of that work. So if you'll join me in thanking Rob. Then, of course, there's the person that was hired part-time for a temporary project management job, as Terry laughs, that turned into a more than full-time 10-year job, Jim Leahy. Jim had an amazing team over the 10 years, working with facilities, maintenance, operations, and transportation. I want to introduce some of those people. Melinda Williams, Melinda in the back. Michael Brewer. Gabriel Santos. Valerie Matthews. Craig Windsor. And Kathleen Ashworth, our Director of Nutrition Services. And of course, our new facilities director, Jim's successor, Tony Barrios. Tony, where are you? It's in the back. Wave, Tony. The rest of my executive team that played a vital role in this process, I want to quickly introduce our Assistant Superintendent for Ed Services, Dr. Jeff Wilson. Assistant Sup for Human Resource Services, Dr. Kevin Harishu. Our Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer, Greg Gazanian. Our Chief Communications Officer, Ryan Ferran. And also our Chief Technology Officer, Scott Bramley. And my Executive Assistant, Rachel Abeda. I just realized that I forgot to recognize, I wanted to go back. in my opening comments that our crew, let me make sure I get this right, our crew headed by Frank Nunez, our APN teacher from the high school, is here with our talented students from APN, and they're the reason that we are able to stream this live on Facebook. So thank you very much, students, and thanks, Frank, for being here. Now, as I call our site principals, these are the folks that manage all of these enormous projects on their site. I'll just give you one example, Foothills Middle School, where we decided one day we're going to take your entire campus school and we're going to move it to the field for a year. And then we're going to move it all back. So you can imagine the details that all of these folks had to manage. So if you could stand and stay standing until we're done, and then we'll all applaud. Lori McQuaid, Rancho Learning Center principal. Lori. Dr. Forsey, Arcadia High School. Dr. Hacking, Dana Middle School. Dr. Issa, First Avenue. Ben Acker, Foothills Middle School. Teresa Oakland, Holly Avenue. Patty Matera, Highland Oaks. Travis Long, Longley Way. Kelsey Brown, Baldwin Stocker. Lauren Leahy, Hugo Reed. Dana Popovich, Camino Grove. And I don't know if I saw any of our past principals, but quickly, Chris Blackstock, Nadia Hillman, Janie Nichols, Sherry Dufresne, and Eileen Anderson were here during those construction times. If you'll help me thank our site principals for all your leadership. Thank you all. And our partnership with the city has never been stronger. And that is because we recognize collectively that we serve the same clients. So our celebration is their celebration. So I want to recognize our Arcadia City Council, Mayor Chote, Mayor Pro Tem April Verlato, Councilmember Tom Beck, Councilmember Peter Amundson, our city manager Dominic Lazaretto in the back. Dominic, thank you. Our fire chief Michael Lang, thank you for your service. From Arcadia Police, Chief Bob Guthrie, and our city clerk, Jean Glasgow. Thank you, Jean. So included in this courageous group of board members to go out for a $218 million bond was the co-chairs of the Measure I campaign committee. It's one thing to step up and serve, but to put your name on the line to co-chair a committee that's not only asking people to vote yes, but to actually give money for the campaign, since we can't use public dollars, it's a whole nother level. So I want to say a special thank you to the co-chairs of that campaign, Gary Kovacek and Steve Filippi. If you served on the Measure I campaign committee, would you please stand up so we could recognize you? There should be a good group of you. You're on a lot of things, Vern. Appreciate you being here. If you volunteered at a call center or did precinct walking for Measure I, again, it should be plenty of you. Please stand up or wave. Please stand up if you're in the front. And I want to thank our generous partners from PTA, Arcadia Education Foundation, and the many parent booster groups that donated time and money to that campaign. Tina Clark, where are you, Tina? I saw you somewhere. There you are. Thank you for your designer eye and patience of a saint with all of your interior work. We appreciate you. And finally, if you are a student or staff that lived through the endless green fences and jackhammering to make all this possible, please stand or wave so we can recognize you. So today we're celebrating 3 monumental events, accomplishments. The first one is the capstone project for Measure I of over 10-year journey. The second one is this specific project, the maintenance, the new maintenance facility and yard, and cutting the ribbon on this facility. And then the last one is the retirement of Jim Leahy. we thought long and hard about how do you celebrate these separately because they're so intertwined, right? And they all go together. This project is the capstone of that 10-year journey, and the man at the helm during that entire 10-year has brought us these amazing world-class facilities is Jim Leahy. So we really appreciate you being here, and we decided let's just have one party all together and celebrate it. So we're going to break it up into those three groups, and so the first part is just kind of revisiting our journey over those 10 years and what we accomplished together, everyone that's here assembled. So I want to introduce someone that's well aware of all of that work because he was at the helm as superintendent. I want to welcome back to the stage Dr. Joel Shaw.
Thank you, David, and Kuhn, and the board, and the staff, and I can't believe they're taking the risk of letting me up in front of a microphone again with no time limit. I'm going to try to be brief, but the task that David gave me was to, I guess, he just thanked everybody and all the people that were involved in making this happen, and my job is to put a little bit of color on this and to try to give you the texture of the story that happened. So I came to the school district in 2005 as deputy superintendent, and Mimi, who was great to see, I'm sorry she had to leave, Mimi was superintendent, and from the get-go we started this preliminary work of trying to figure out, and you got to go back in time, there wasn't any plan, there wasn't a master plan, there wasn't any money, there wasn't a bond, there was just this idea that the buildings around us were literally falling down, and that we were putting kids in classrooms that really didn't match at all what the expectation was of what this community expected for people. So here's part of the story that I'll bet you've either forgotten or you didn't know. Mimi had the great idea based on something, and she was a numbers person, she liked budgets. We were gonna go out for $90 million, and that seemed like a heck of a lot of money. And so we started working with McCarthy, and we had a few consultants come over, and one of the consultants came over and he said, let me tell you what $90 million buys. Number one, it buys $45 million because of escalation. What? So we went through this whole learning process of coming to understand that the needs we had from the high school through all the elementary schools and the middle school, and believe me, this wasn't even a consideration. There was no way we were going to touch that with $90 million. So we hired a social firm that does social research, and they went out and we said, your job is to tell us what's the biggest bond we could get this community to support. And the short version of that story is we came up with $218 million. So just think about that, going from 90 million bucks to $218 million. And suddenly, the opportunity to actually do something significant was real. And of course, that was just an idea, right? So now you got a number, and you've got this thing, you got to go out to the community and convince them to get past this bond. So I just want you to think about the board at that time, Joanne and Marianne and Annie and John and Jim. And here's Mimi and Joel and Christina and the rest going, we think we'd like to go in front of the community and pass a bond for $218 million. And they said yes. Now, there's a little bit of hubris in all that we actually thought we could pull this off. We didn't know what we didn't know. And the board didn't know what we didn't know, but there was an absolute trust and faith in this community that this community would support doing the right things from a facilities perspective that would make this place look like the kind of district that everybody knew that it was. So as David said, we brought that to the board in August of 2006, actually. So it's more than 10 years if you go back in time, 12 years, and all of a sudden, here we are today. November 7th was the election, 67% approval, and it was a 55% bond. So you only needed to get 55% of folks to approve it. And the electeds over here are shaking their head because they know what it means to go out and get 67% of people voting for something at that level. And it meant that we had the support that we needed. Now, Ryan prepared for me a list of all the things that we did. I'm going to read it to you. It's going to take 2 hours and 15 minutes. No, I just to say that there's a whole bunch of invisible stuff that is not very interesting. Gas lines and infrastructure and safety things that had to be done to make sure that our staff and our community and our kids are safe here. And, you know, the idea of constructing classrooms that are earthquake safe, the idea of touching every single classroom in the school district, every single classroom, the idea of building a joint use gym, going to the city and saying, you know what, we think there's an opportunity to collaborate. We already had a foundation of doing that, but we're going to work through all the nuts and bolts and all the difficulties and all the reasons why you wouldn't want to do this. The Performing Arts Center, to actually build a place that was more than what the district needed, but would become a centerpiece for the performing arts in the San Gabriel Valley. The stadium at Arcadia High School, and I take personal credit for this because it was not in the plan. We built the stadium, and I went over to Monrovia, and I saw what they were building. I said, we got to do something to the front of this thing because it's got to look like a good stadium. But more importantly, I went into the bathrooms, and they were bad. And I said, we got to find the money. We got to squeeze that dollar, spend that dollar one more time, and we have to make these bathrooms look, because that's what the community sees. The community comes in. They don't see all the hours of planning, all the work that went on. They see the snack shack. They see the stands. They see the restroom. And of course, then to build a district office. Now, it sounds almost silly to talk about this or to build a facility like this, because typically what happens in school districts when the superintendent and the board says we're going to build a district office is teachers go out on strike. And I'm not being facetious. People get mad. They're going, that's money that ought to go in my pocket. That's money that ought to be used to make my classroom a better place. That's not what happened here. What happened here was the faculty and staff and the community supported the idea of creating a district office and now a facilities building that, again, would allow people to do the work that they knew was the work of the school district. And I just want to underscore that that's no small things. Many a superintendent has lost their job because they built a district office that wasn't supported. Maybe that's why I retired. No, that's not true. That's not why I retired. Just a couple of other things I just want to say. Look, starting in 2007 then, the bond gets passed. We have to go out and sell the bond. There's all this work Christina and other consultants did. We had to hire architects and construction management firms. There's so many details. There was 1 million community meetings and meetings with staff so that people in Arcadia would feel that there was input into the decision making of what those classrooms were going to look like, what kind of technology was going to go into the classrooms. And you know what? We made some mistakes, but that was the advantage of being fiscally so conservative, to be able to go back again and go back to Holly Avenue, which was the very first school we did, and 6, 7 years later say we need to do upgrades. We need to hit a standard that's going to be true for everything. Now, 2 more really quick stories. So one of the things that was different about the way we did things is we had a Measure I internal committee that would meet once a week with the architects and the construction firms. And I sat on that committee as the superintendent. I was there every week. I was the biggest pain in the butt to those guys. And that's the Arcadia way again. We weren't just going to turn this over. And there were plenty of districts that passed a bond, hired a construction management firm, hired an architect, hired a contractor, and then the district never did anything else. And then they were surprised when they ran out of money. They were surprised when they had to go back to the community and ask for another 50 or 60 or 70 million dollars to complete. They were surprised when the change orders were so big that there wasn't enough money to do it. That was not the case here. Instead, as you've already heard, the program was so well managed that we were able to build a central kitchen that, again, our students deserve, and a facility like this that our staff deserves. And then one other story is my story about Jim. So it isn't quite accurate that Jim ran this program from the beginning. In fact, we had someone else that will go nameless that we hired to run the program, and it was big enough that we knew that this individual needed some help. And so Christina and this individual and I, again, as superintendent, I sat in all these interviews. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm just trying to indicate to you that normally that's not the way it was done. So Jim comes in and Christina didn't want him, and the other guy didn't want him, and they didn't want him because they were scared of him. Because they knew that this was a guy that knew what the heck he was doing, that understood what it meant to run a program like this. So I said, we're hiring him. And in the back of my mind, I guess I knew that it would be maybe a year later, and he would be in charge of this program. And I just want to say, Jim, you gave so much to this program. We would not have anywhere near what we have without the heart and soul of this man. So once again, please just give him a round of applause. So that's my story, from my perspective of this amazing journey, this 12-year journey. I don't think there's anything I could be more proud of to have been part of something like that and to be part of it today. David, thank you for asking me to do this. And thank you all for coming here and sharing this with us. Thanks. Have a wonderful time.
Thanks for that walk back in history, Joel. One story he didn't share with you that, I was on that steering committee for over 10 years, and every time I'd sit through one of the ribbon cuttings for our new facilities, they would have that nice new shiny plaque, that they were commemorating. And one day I said, Joel, what's it going to take for my name to get on one of these? I've been at this for 10 years. He said, David, I want you to know I have personally placed your name on the back of every plaque. So that's servant leadership right there, Joel. Thank you. So now that brings us to our capstone project right here, our maintenance facility. And there's no better person to share with you the vision, design, and symbolism of this great facility, Mr. Jim Leahy. Jim.
It was a shorter speech when it was in the sun. Now it's going to get serious. But if you step back and you look at this building, and I do believe strongly in servant leadership, and I lead by that example in everything that I do. But this building, if you saw what was here before, and if you guys remember what it was before, I remember the first day I came over here and I'd been hired, and going through that whole process was a story in itself. But to come here and they showed me a 1942 Quonset hut and said, here's your office. I said, this shit's going to change. And now the over and under when I dropped a 4-letter word was 7 or 8 minutes into the speech, and whoever had 6 won. But it is absolutely, we didn't know that the catchphrase imagine, inquire, inspire would ever be part of this. It's inside, it's part of everything we do. It starts to be the standard, the normalcy that we deal with here in the school district. But when we started this, we didn't have enough money to do this. There had been a total of $600,000 for some small electrical upgrades and to be able to provide just a minimum amount of stuff to get this through because it was at the end of the project. That $600,000 wasn't going to get a central kitchen. It wasn't going to get everybody under one roof. It wasn't going to improve our efficiency, but that's what we had to work with at that point in time. And through the efforts of so many people, and most every one of them is sitting here in this office, or excuse me, in this audience, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize some people that have been instrumental in that, not only to us, but at the city and everything we believe in. I have a childhood friend, Mickey Siegel, who has been involved in everything that we've done here in this district and has been behind me, and every time I called him, I need this, he would get it. He's that kind of dedicated civil servant, but not just of his money, also of his time. And he and everyone with the building department, it was never, hey, that's your problem. Again, this was the first school district that I ever worked for. So I really didn't know how the dynamics really worked, but I have never been treated with anything but respect when I needed something from the city. I've never been treated with anything but support when we were trying to do something together. When we were the lead agency on building the joint use gym, it was an incredible experience because we just worked together. This building typically would, since it doesn't have students here, it didn't involve the Department of State Architects. We did it the very similar way, but it was done under the supervision and the inspection of the city of Arcadia. And believe me, when it got down to the wire, they did several special inspections just to make sure that we happened today. And I'd like everybody to give a hand to the city of Arcadia and their people. As we moved, we wanted to get everybody under one roof. The central kitchen was down at Santa Anita, and I think it was back in the 40s when it was originally built, but it was a disaster, but it was still turning it out. And that's the kind of theme that carries through all of this, is the ability for everybody that works in that classified group of people. They did their job and they never asked, and they had to deal with every mess. They have to, you know, if you take time to think about it, the first person you see every morning when you go to a school is a classified employee. The last person you see at night is a classified employee. Behind the scenes, they are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so that the fine teachers and the students and everyone can be in there doing what they need to do. Let me give you a little inside tip, and you can carry this through your careers, because I know several of you are still in the education business. You want to piss off a classified person quick, ask them how their vacation was. Ask them how their summer was. Ask them how their winter vacation was, because they never get one. Everything that has to be done during those periods of time, and they do it, they don't complain, and they did it in conditions here that were just not commensurate with where we were going with the school district. So it was always a goal to do something here. We didn't know if we get it, like Joel alluded to earlier. Several times school districts, most of the time, run out of money. I can stand here in front of you and tell you we did the 218. We got matching funds. We probably are really close to $300 million in the school district, and we still have $30 million in the bank. So I'm proud of that, and everyone sitting out here should be proud of it, and give yourself a hand, because it's incredible. Now we get into these particulars of this building. We hired a firm who I'd worked with in the past in different sectors. Arcaforma, who is Miguel Mayo and Babak, standing near the wall. They gave us an incredible deal to get involved with the school district. I grinded them pretty hard. And amazingly enough, the building had already won an Architectural of America award before we'd ever built it. It's standing inside, and you can take a look at it. Now, there's going to be people out there that know that I'm a little wacky and that I like to collect junk and I like to repurpose stuff. And I kind of want to just give a couple of stories about what's different about this building, because some of my wackiness is inside that building and will be there for perpetuity, and that was by design. As we were going down and redoing the gymnasium at the high school, there was all this beautiful bleacher wood, completely vertical grain Doug fir. And I know the demo contractor had already calculated, I'm going to make a killing on this. And I loaded up all the maintenance guys. Melinda sent them down there. As they were taking it up, we were hauling it off. I had no idea what I was going to do with it or where it was going to go. And as this began to take shape, I told Miguel and Babak, I said, I want the feature wall somewhere in there to be of this wood. It's bleachers that people in this district and students who, since the beginning of time, have sat in those bleachers. And it kind of carries me back as a general contractor for over 40 years. When I would go into somebody's home and I would tear up a dining room floor, I would say, you know, how many Thanksgiving dinners were on this floor? It can't go to the dump. We got to build something somewhere. When I would see a door jamb where kids had been measured as they grew through the years, I certainly was never going to tear that out. We put it somewhere, whether they liked it or not. That was my signature, and that wall is my signature in there. And it has the signature of every person that currently works at the district, and room for everybody who will in the future work at the district. And when you take a look at it, recognize and think about all the various different times you sat on that. And I reflected in writing this about all the various different companies that have been involved and had to put up with me for 10 years, because it hasn't been pleasant for them. It really hasn't. I know you think I'm real jovial and nice and all that stuff. There's another side that comes out, and it's pretty hard, because I don't answer to the school board. I answer to Terry, and that's worse than any school board ever could be. You know, and then there's the commitment of our board, of our administration, everybody involved in this, about elevating the perspective of the classified employee. There seems to be a natural chasm that exists between certificated and classified in many districts. Again, I'm a neophyte in this, so I wouldn't know it, but I never saw anybody not being supported that didn't get backed up if they brought it up. The certificated people are the instrumental people behind the scenes to make it happen. And if you'll find in the building, there's a couple other areas I'll direct you to. One was the boards. The other is down in the south end of the maintenance area. There is a room that's set up for plans. Seems like it was well thought out. Let me just give you the truth. It was ordered for First Avenue 10 years ago. They were too damn short, and I hid them for 10 years and said, I'll find somewhere to use them, but we're going to use those lockers. Today, they house all the plans of all the buildings to be done. We don't waste anything here. We bury our mistakes. And you know, in closing about this, and I'm going to share a story approximately 30 years ago. And it made such an impression on me when I was there at this. It was a dinner to honor, and most of you are too young to remember, but it was a dinner to honor Jim Leahy, who was an NFL referee and was a very famous NFL referee, and it was as the NFL was beginning to grow. And he was sitting at a table with Terry and I, and we were talking back and forth, and the waiter walks by and he says, can you bring me some butter? The guy walks by and says, okay. Next time he walks by, he says, can you bring me some butter? The guy goes, okay. Finally, the third time he walks by, he looks at me and says, I guess you don't know who I am. And the waiter looked at him and goes, I'm Jim Leahy. I've done 4 Super Bowls. I'm being inducted in the Hall of Fame. I'm the most famous NFL referee that exists. I guess you just don't know who I am. And the waiter looked at him and goes, well, I guess you just don't know who I am. I'm in charge of the butter tonight, and you ain't getting any. That encapsulates what maintenance does. Okay, they're in charge of a lot of things that you don't think about, but the better they're treated, the faster your stuff gets fixed. So I'm just giving you a little inside tip. The building, you can take a look at it. It's spectacular. It will continue to house and do the things we're going to do over the next many, many years, and I am honored and proud to have been part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. He never stops teaching, does he? So now that brings us to the last part of our celebration and our party, our 3-part party here, and that is recognizing the retirement of Jim Leahy. So how do you begin to thank or acknowledge someone that gives up a lucrative Hollywood career to serve their hometown through the biggest school construction project ever seen in Arcadia and treated each of the thousands of projects within the over 10-year scope of work as if it was their very own home? I had the privilege to work with Jim through the entirety of the project and watch his ability to jump in the trenches and show a contractor how it's done when it was needed, and then change into a suit and present a new scope of work to the Board of Education in our boardroom, and everything in between. We thought we were hiring a project manager for Measure I. What we got was a devoted husband, a father of 3, 2 serving as AUSD staff members, as well as a father role model to hundreds of other staff. A tradesman when the work needed done, a fierce negotiator even on the smallest contracts, a mentor, a statesman, a politician, a district storyteller, and a natural leader. Jim has simply been entangled with all of our lives for the last 10 years, and we are better individuals and a better organization for it. Personally, I don't remember much of the details from the long steering committees, design planning, and punch list meetings. What I do remember is someone that cared deeply for this community, the importance of a good education, and a genuine love for the people that live and work here in Arcadia. Also, I remember a person that always understood the why behind this work, designing and building world-class facilities to match the world-class programs that we've come to expect in Arcadia. Jim, mission accomplished, my friend. Your work here will forever serve the kids of this community through the world-class facilities and the legacy of excellence you hold for yourself and for everyone around you. Please come up and share some thoughts on what this journey has meant for you. And I want to remind you, Jim, that we do not have 7-second delay on the streaming.
Like 7 seconds is going to stop me. David, thank you for all the kind words and this special day that the district's put on. And having done it many, many times, I know all too well the effort and what goes into it and how it goes. And I thank all of you, and I am humbled. And that's something I don't say very often. I wasn't sure the best way to present this, politically speaking, to share the past 10 years of my life with the district. So as usual, I'm just going to tell the story as I saw it and try to be as politically correct as old Jim can be. And I need to start with a few basic understandings and understandings of what I've learned. If my wife Terry had a choice between her lifelong love of Arcadia and me, I'd be walking the streets. The stories I share with you today, I'll attempt to protect the innocent, but I won't be able to. And to have the record reflect, and this is really important now because two people have alluded to it, I have given over 100 board reports and speeches and never used my forward vocabulary for the contractors. So I'm going to keep that intact to the furthest extent possible that I can do. Rolling back the tape to my first retirement, which was 12 years ago, I had a measure of success as a general contractor construction manager, but decided for many reasons, some of them health, some of them personal, that I was going to take it easy. And I crafted a day for myself that consisted of tennis in the morning, show up to the office to sign some reports, go to the movies, then take a nap. It was working, for me at least. Then one day, the district's biggest fan showed up with a flyer saying, oh, they need somebody to oversee bond construction. My sabbatical was changing. The way to tell my AUSD bond story starts with Terry saying, I'm sure you would still have time for tennis every day and the movies. Plus, and here's my wife's guilt trip, you could give back to the district has given all of our family. My response was, I did. I paid taxes. You can imagine how successful that was as I stand here before you. I then became a lifelong learner. The first day at the district I started, my calendar was filled with 20-plus meetings for the week. None of those appointments were for tennis or naps. After the first few meetings, I realized that acronyms are real big in the school business. And I needed help, and I have to digress a little bit. Our family is very close, and Sunday is dinner at Big Mama's house, and everything's discussed there. So when I came back and I said, we got some smart kids in Arcadia. I'm really kind of, amazed by what it is. I said, some of them are taking steroids. And Megan looks at me and goes, what are you talking about? I go, yeah, they got IEPs. And she looks and goes, you idiot, that's an individualized learning plan. I said, okay, well, I'll double down on that. I said, the two of you better start working hard because there's some teacher named Selpa. He's at every school. Needless to say, I didn't venture in much of the educational world after that as my foot was deeply implanted. The second portion of my learning was I spoke fluent constructionese. 30 years of being in it, I could motivate anybody. I'd been all over the world. I'd worked in a lot of areas and felt very conversant, but I certainly didn't speak public works. So days and nights were spent reading contracts, looking into flyers, reading this, going to seminars, and I had to do so very quickly with case law, etc. Because we were in the middle, the way the plan was working, phase 1 was being built, while phase 2 was being planned, while phase 3 was, so the airplane was flying where we were putting it all together. And we were working hard to do that. Now, the first job we did was Holly, as Joel mentioned earlier. And we found a clause in the contract that said the contractor was responsible for providing 24-hour guard service. He didn't bid that. They don't even read it. I mean, the books are this thick. I had read it and knew that it was in there, so I implemented this thing. Well, the guy fulfilled his requirement. The contractor fulfilled his requirement. And he put some 67-year-old guy, who was old at that time, out there in a uniform that didn't fit in an old trailer. 2 in the morning, I get a phone call. Mr. Jim, we have a problem. Yeah, what is it? There's 2 people on the roof, okay? What are they doing? Making love. What are you doing? Watching. I said, okay, I'll be done. You better hurry. And then at Hugo Reed, we get a phone call, we've come across some bones. So now I think of, okay, now we have to go through all the process. The police have been brought out. Everybody's coming out. I have a background in that area of knowledge of what bones are. I went out and I said, they're not human bones. So the coroner comes out, and who happens to be an Arcadia person, and I know him, and I said, you know, you and I both know those aren't human bones. But if you want to set up a big area, that's fine. But that contractor over there and those bulldozers are costing you $3,000 an hour as the taxpayer. He goes, start them up. But while reflecting on the hundreds of millions of dollars spent and the face of joyful students when they saw that they could be just a little bit better at the PAC, or the stadium was a little bit better, everything caused them to be a little bit better. It's a funny side note where, again, I brought my Hollywood experience. As Joel talked about, we had the opportunity to have the stadium under construction, and then we were going to make it more elaborate with a brick wall. Well, the brick wall wasn't completed for the first game, so we were out here painting Measure A banners to look like brick, and then we're uplighting it, and everybody goes, oh my God, the brick looks fabulous. Go the next morning, it doesn't exist. But the interesting part of it, you have the AEC, some amazing buildings that were built. But I can tell you, even though those millions were spent, you get an understanding of what some things mean to kids. Over the summer, 2 years ago, the decision was made to take some of the AEC, and the gestation of that story was Eagle Scout had wanted to do a garden project, and my reaction says, that's going to be a pain. It's always a pain, but okay, let's do it. But as we were doing it, I said, well, if we're going to do that, let's go ahead and build some pathways. Let's build an outdoor classroom. Let's build a pickleball court. Let's build some lunch areas. And our staff, our maintenance staff, made it happen over a summer. When school started, you saw kids' faces who had to be walking up the street to go play basketball, had nowhere to eat at Rancho. All of a sudden, they had outdoor classrooms and things available to them that are setting the standard for what we do today. And it's those kind of things that caused us to be motivated to do what we needed to do. Joel mentioned earlier and discussed the timeline of the bond, and every project he mentioned and every day of every year, the behind-the-scenes work done by the maintenance crew is what makes a difference. Our teachers are phenomenal, our administrators are phenomenal, and they do a fantastic job. But that happens because of what we have to maintenance and the things that they do, operations and the things they do, food service and the things they do, and they're unsung. They're heroes. I led them for a number of years, and I can tell you I cannot be any prouder of a group of people that just go and do their job and don't think about anything else. I'm also convinced of something else. There will never, what we've achieved here as a community, as a group of people, there will never be another bond like this in Arcadia. David and his vision and the board's support are thinking so far ahead of what the student of tomorrow it needs to be. Individualized learning programs, so many things are happening that are so important that make us not just, it'd be easy to fall back and say we graduated everybody. But what are we doing about the people from now on? And that's where I want you to take a moment and applaud everyone. I am proud to say that education at AUSD has become our family business for the past 10 years. I've been asked a lot lately, what's next? I don't have a good answer. I have some offers. I have some ideas. But as a lifetime learner, I've learned this from Arcadia and my wife. Trash days on Friday. The vacuum works better if it's empty. And that you need to clean the squeegee after you wash the windows. But I know that some of the things that I'm going to do for sure, I, along with Amber, will continue to give weekly tennis lessons to Ryan Ferran and his Arcadia High crew. And if I could rip my shirt off, you'd see my Jimber shirt. But I won't, I'll hold off. And I will be kept in the know by my greatest teammates, Terry, Lauren, Megan, and Caitlin. Today we celebrate so much, but I'm the lucky one. How many fathers have a chance to work professionally with their daughters, to see Lauren come back, become a principal, pursue her doctorate, to see Megan take a group of students to Washington, D.C. and lead them with the smartest kids in the country representing Arcadia. And a funny story with Caitlin, she's the only one not in education, but she designed the salad that Martha Stewart used for the Super Bowl this year. And as we're introducing them, I introduced, oh, this is Lauren, she's a principal. Oh, this is Megan, she teaches the Constitution team. Oh, this is Caitlin, she's a food scientist. I didn't know I was scarring her for life because at her wedding, her signature drink was just a food scientist. Lastly, I know of many sports teams with great players who play many seasons and never win a big championship. The Bond has been our big championship, and this building is my Super Bowl ring. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. You will be missed, but we know you're not going far. I want to quickly thank a few people that make an event like this possible, and then we have a sign unveiling and some ribbon cutting to do. But real quick, if you'll help me thank Tony Barrios, Melinda Williams, Ashley Gibbs, Kathleen Ashworth, Rachel Abeda, and our Arcadia High School pep band, and our Boy Scouts for everything they did to make this event possible. If you help me. So as Jim was describing this beautiful new facility, and as President Wynn mentioned, the heartbeat of our district, we needed a welcome sign that would echo that sentiment. It's now time that we officially open this facility in 10 seconds and unveil the sign. So if you will help me count down as Jim's family helps us out, if you'll help me count down, we'll unveil our new sign that will be posted outside to this brand new facility and the capstone of our $218 million Measure I. You guys ready? Family, you ready? All right. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A well-deserved honor. So we are going to do some ribbon cutting, and it's going to be right out here. So if I'd ask a lot of our dignitaries to please come out front. Ryan will, he's got it all down about the many pictures that we need to take. And then I'm going to invite everyone to come inside. Jim's going to cut his retirement cake. Please mosey around through the building. Help yourself to the refreshments. Thank you all for making this a very special event. Thank you.
We saw the wood.
Go see where the tax money went.
So you're dead.
Oh yeah? My niece.
Your niece.
All right. Granddaughter, yeah.
Apple of his eye.
Yeah.
Knocked you out of the for that.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Take care, guys.
I'll see you at 5 then.
Oh my God. Did you go see this?
Payment committee on deck.
Man, what a great speech, to be honest. That was really good. Yeah. You guys should feel good. That was cool.
Sorry?
I can't hear about that. I want that reproof.
On a wall. Yeah, yeah. Right out front. No, that's really cool. Yeah, it's...
Is this live still going?
Oh, the band.
Holy fair.
How was it going? Yeah.
Principals, you're on deck.
You're in here. How much?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, I know.
There they are.
Can we squeeze Terry in next to Jim? Terry. Yeah. Okay, we need to cut the cake.
Ready?
Yeah.
Whenever you guys are ready. 1, 2, 3.
It did happen.
Yeah.